What's up, sports fan? Welcome to the first video on Benched. Now, Benched is the new YouTube channel for sports, and it will consist of only sports, right? So with this video, it's going to be my personal NFL 2020 team rankings, right? So this is before free agency and before the draft. So after those two, we're going to come back, we're going to revisit this video, we're going to update the video, and then we're going to see where exactly everyone's at. But this is going to be consisting of where I believe the teams are before those two events, right? So let's get started. First off, we have the Tennessee Titans. Now, Tennessee Titans, I believe, need to re-sign Derrick Henry. He is their heart and soul of the team. He is the reason why that team is winning. He's the one back I trust to get that first or that 4th and 1 90% of the time. So if they don't re-sign him, I don't think that team is going to be made up of the same. So until they re-sign him, they're 11th on my board right now. Up next, we have the Miami trade everyone away Dolphins. They basically sold house last year. They acquired 3 first-round draft picks this year. So their free agency and draft is going to be quite interesting. They need a quarterback. They need running back, receiver help, offensive line help, defensive back help, defensive line help, linebacker help. They need help on pretty much everything but I think the water boy. But so we're going to have the Dolphins. They're definitely 32nd on my list, right? Up next, we have the Cleveland Browns. And the Cleveland Browns should have had a great year last year. They didn't. We had that incident with Myles Garrett at the end of the season. Jarvis Landry is, of course, my phone starts going off in the middle of the video. Listen, if you guys are going to do YouTube, make sure you guys mute your phone, okay? But, so we have the Cleveland Browns, okay? Nick Chubb, beasted it last year. Jarvis Landry's having hip surgery, I think it is. He said he's going to be ready to come back and play. Whether or not he's with the Browns, I don't know. OBJ needs to step it up. Baker Mayfield needs to step it up. They need a draft for offensive line. They need some help. And for that, I have them ranked 26th on my board, right? Up next, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars. Nick Foles got hurt last year. They traded away Jalen Ramsey. The defense is in shambles. They need help on the defensive line, linebacker. They need to replace Jalen Ramsey at cornerback. Offensive line is a definite need. Now Nick Foles will be coming back, so it's going to be interesting to see what they do with that quarterback situation in Minshew and Foles. But with that being said, they are 21st on my board. Up next, we have the Detroit Lions. Lions are interesting because Darius Slay, big play Slay, is going to be a free agent this year. Whether or not they chose to sign him, don't know. Darius Slay has come out and said, well, if they don't want to sign me, then I'll definitely go into free agency. He's willing to go into free agency. They also have been talking about trading Matthew Stafford, which I think will be a big mistake unless they can get something really, really good for him. They have the 3rd pick in the NFL draft, and I think as of right now, they have Stafford still on the team, and my placement is they're going to be in the 21 through 25th range, right? Up next, we have Cooks, Thielen, Diggs, Cousins, Smith, Rhodes, all those big names on that squad. And this is Cousins' last year. They need to win, and they need to win now, right? But they did win. They did have a good season last year, and for that, I have them in the top 10. Up next, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Buccaneers are in turmoil. They have no running back. They have no offensive line. Jameis Winston throws interceptions left and right. He did have 5,000 yards, and they did have 2 receivers go over 1,000 yards with double-digit touchdowns. And I believe they will right the ship, whether it be with Jameis Winston or they go and pick up somebody else. Phillip Rivers is in Florida now. He's living there. They could pick him up. Get a running back, who knows? But they definitely need help, and for that, I'm putting them in the bottom tier above the Dolphins and below the Browns. Up next, we have my first team that'll be top 5 will be the Niners. They were in the Super Bowl last year. I don't want to say Garoppolo cost them that, but he definitely did not make any smart plays. he kind of let the team down a little bit, as well as I think the coaching staff did too. But they're definitely top 5. That defense is nasty. They do need to upgrade off of Sherman. He did get exposed quite a bit. But up next, we have the Atlanta Falcons. Now, the Atlanta Falcons have the best receiver in football right now in Julio Jones. They have a good complementary receiver in Ridley for him. Freeman is still there. They let go of their defensive end. Name is slipping from my head right now. Vic Beasley. So they need some help. And I think with the defense that's coming back, they had some injuries on it last year. I think they will be okay. And I think they will have a pretty interesting free agency and draft this year. But I'm putting them in the middle. They're going to be at the back end of the middle tier. And then up next, I get a lot of crap for this pick, but I believe that the Baltimore Ravens are the best team in football coming into the 2020 season. They have the good young duo of Jackson and Brown. They have Ingram back there just running people over. The offensive line could be upgraded a little bit. They might be losing Judon. I think they need to re-sign him. But with that being said, they're definitely my number 1, maybe number 2. Up next, we have the Bears, Chicago Bears. They need to get rid of Trubisky, and they need to get rid of Trubisky now. When they drafted him, I said out loud that it was a big mistake. I didn't believe that he was that good of a quarterback. He had 1 year. They have that insane defense that they're wasting, and they gave up a lot of picks for that defense, right? So with that being said, I have them right behind the Jacksonville Jaguars. Up next, we have the team with the first overall draft pick this year. It's going to be interesting to see what they do with it. Everyone's saying they're going to take Burrow. I don't know. I'd be interested in maybe hearing some trade offers if I was the Bengals, because they need a lot of help, and they need a lot of help now. I don't see them signing AJ Green back, so they need some help. And I have them just slightly above the Dolphins. Up next, we have my Dallas Cowboys. And I'm going to get in real close for this one, right? Jerry, you really messed it up last year, okay? You signed Zeke to a $90 million contract. Whatever. I could have looked past that one. But then you signed Jalen Smith. Now, I love Jalen Smith, right? But he still had a little bit of time on his contract. And I think you only did that just to stick it to Zeke. But you really cost the team. I believe you really cost the team this year, because if you didn't sign Jalen to that extension, you'd have had a little bit more money. I think we have $77 million. Dak wants 40. Cooper will probably get 20. That leaves Byron Jones out there in the cold, and with the new CBA, it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard to work all this out, right? And we're definitely not re-signing Robert Quinn, who was stellar last year. So we have some issues, and for that, I'm putting us in the middle of the middle tier, right? Up next, we have a team with probably one of the top 3 receivers in the league in Hopkins. Their running back got hurt last year. They have Deshaun Watson. They need offensive line help. Their defense is they traded away Clowney last year. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do. I do have them in the top 10, but only because the Titans haven't re-signed Derrick Henry yet. If they do that, I will be switching these two. I will be switching the places of these two. And yeah. Excuse me. I need something to drink. But up next, we have the Colts. Colts are interesting because at the beginning of the season, Andrew Luck decided he wanted to retire, which I'm all for taking care of yourself. So I have no animosity towards Andrew Luck. But they went into the season with Jacoby Brissett, who's not that bad of a quarterback. He's proven he can win, that he can manage the team. They need defensive help. They need quarterback help. They need receiver help. T.Y.'s getting a little old. Their running backs are pretty good in Mac. So with that being said, I have them ranked right behind the Dallas Cowboys. If they could upgrade quarterback position, they will definitely move up in the my board. Cornerback, all that stuff. Now we have the Rams. Now the Rams are interesting because they've been talking to Todd Gurley. What are they talking to Gurley about? No one knows. Could it be contract reworkings? Don't know. Could it be trading possibilities, trading Todd Gurley out of there? Who knows? They need receiver help. They did get Jalen Ramsey, but he's kind of a hothead to me, and I think he lets receivers get under his skin too easily. And with that being said, I have them ranked right above my Dallas Cowboys. And up next, we have the San Diego quarterbackless Chargers. Or not even San Diego, sorry, I apologize. Los Angeles Chargers. I live in SoCal, so yeah. But so we have the LA Chargers, who lost Phillip Rivers this year. They didn't re-sign him. He moved to Florida. They have Tyrod Taylor. They're getting James back, but I believe they draft a quarterback in this year's draft. But with that being said, I have them 25th on my board, right? Up next, we have the Super Bowl champions with the comeback kid. I don't know how many games I watched. Patrick Mahomes come back from double digits, especially in the playoffs. He's a proven winner. He stays calm under pressure. It's crazy how good that team is. And they would be one. They could be one, but I have them as 2 right now. Up next is the Saints. Now, the Saints, I think, the Niners got bailed out against the Saints. And, yeah, I have them 4th on my board. They need to re-sign Drew Brees. They have one of the top 3 receivers in the game right now in Michael Thomas. They could use a little bit of defensive help. Offensive line, they could definitely use some help. Up next, we have the New York Giants and Saquon Barkley. That's all I got to say about that. They just have Saquon Barkley. They need help all across the board. So with that being said, we're going to put them in the middle of the bottom tier. Up next, we have the NFC East champions, the Eagles. Now, I believe the Eagles will be pursuing my Byron Jones heavily, and they could get him, which breaks my heart. I don't want to see him in the black and green. But, you know, they need help. They need help at receiver. They need help at cornerback. They need help at offensive line, maybe. I think they released one of their defensive linebackers. And, yeah. So they could be having an interesting draft and free agency. It's going to be quite interesting to see. But I have them ahead of these, behind the Titans, but ahead of the rest of the pack. And I have actually the Falcons at the tail end of that one. Up next, we have the Steelers. Now, the Steelers, in a matter of a year, changed so much. They don't have Brown. They don't have Bell. They lost Roethlisberger. They lost Connor to injury, both of them to injuries, and it was just Juju on the team, right? And they still somehow almost made it to the playoffs. That defense is nasty with Watt, Dupree. They got Fitzpatrick from Miami, which kind of broke my heart because I wanted Fitzpatrick. But with that being said, I think they have a really good offseason, or they have a really good draft, and I think they have a really good free agency, and they pick up a few additions to help that offense. And with that being said, I have them right behind the Titans. Up next, we have Drew Lock and the Broncos. Now, the Broncos need help because I've been reading that Harris has been thinking about free agency, that he may, you know, not be a Bronco this year, which is interesting because if that's the case, then they're going to need to replace him. And they also need help at receiver. They need help at offensive line really bad. And with that being said, I have the Broncos last on here, so they're 20th on my board. Up next, we have the Green Bay Packers. Aaron Rodgers, Adams, their running backs that they have back there that they keep switching in and out. They're almost there. Rodgers getting older. He definitely needs a little bit more help at the receiving core. Defense could use some additions, but I have them 6th on my board. And up next, we have the Panthers. Now, the Panthers had an interesting offseason. Luke Kuechly retired to shock everybody, but, you know, health is very important, and you need to take care of your health. And so, without Luke Kuechly, they lost probably the general of the whole team, you know? And I think they replace him in the draft. I don't want to say who, but I don't think they'd also need to look at the whole Cam Newton Allen situation. And with that being said, I have them just above the Chargers. Now we have the Las Vegas Raiders. Oh man, my collar's bothering me. The Las Vegas Raiders, who have a new stadium this year, who have the draft this year in their hometown. I think they're going to make a splash. I think they're going to try and just pop off the stadium from fireworks. I think they're going to be, they definitely showed interest in Tom Brady, offering 2-year, $60 million. Could be interesting to see what Tom Brady does and whether or not he goes there. Now I have them taking a running or a receiver because last year Waller was their number one receiver and he's a tight end. So they definitely need help there. Josh Jacobs is a beast. They have Max on the edge on defense. That was a beast. They had a great draft class last year. So I predict that they have another one this year, and they're going to want to sell tickets, which they already did, but they're going to want to make a splash in their new stadium. So, but I have the Raiders just behind the Falcons, but ahead of the Broncos. Up next, we have the team that has the second overall pick in the draft, and I don't see them trading back for anything, okay? I see them taking the best player that's not a quarterback in Chase Young to pair with Sweat on the edge. On the other edge, they have Payne in the middle. They just lost Josh Norman, so they could replace. They do need to get another corner. They could get a receiver to help out help out Scary Terry. They need a running back. I know Geis got hurt. Peterson's up there in age. I'm not sure if they're sold on Haskins, so it's going to be interesting. But I have the Redskins right above the Bengals. I'm just checking to see how much time. I'm trying to keep this under 20 minutes, everybody, just so that you guys don't get bored. Up next, we have the Cardinals. Now, the Cardinals have their Offensive Rookie Player of the Year, Offensive Player. Yeah, you guys know. But it's Kyler Murray, and I think Kyler Murray willed that team into a lot of the wins last year. He needs help. He needs offensive line help to keep him from getting hit. I watched a few games where off the edge, the tackles just couldn't block anyone, and he was getting hit. He needs definite help, and I have them in the middle of the pack, right above the Broncos. Now, these two teams could change here. Like this little section here could change depending on the next few weeks. Now, up next, we have the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills made it to the playoffs. They have a really good defense. Josh Allen is throwing the ball like crazy. They need a receiver to catch it, though, to move the chains. Frank Gore's getting a little older. They might address running back. They could definitely take a receiver. But I have the Bills in the top 10 just behind the Green Bay Packers. Man, I got this tickle in my throat. Up next, we have the final team rounding out my top 5 in the Seattle Seahawks. This draft and this free agency, they need to address the pass rush and their defensive back issues. They got exposed on the cornerback situation, and their pass rush is non-existent. They, I think, were last in sacks, even though they had Clowney and Anza. So we'll see what they do, but they have Russell Wilson, so they have to be top 5 because Russell Wilson just seems to win games. Up next, we have the New York Jets, and with the New York Jets, they need a lot of help. They need offensive line help. They need receiver help. They need defensive line help, linebacker help. But I have them taking offensive line, and I have them just behind the Browns. Now, the last team, we have the Patriots. Now, whether or not Tom Brady leaves the Patriots, who knows? It could all just be a smoke and mirror type thing. But as of now, they have Tom Brady, and as of now, he needs weapons. But I still have Tom Brady in the top 10, right behind the Buffalo Bills, because for some reason they still end up winning, right? But that's going to be my 2020 pre-draft, pre-free agency NFL team rankings. And like I said, at the end of the draft, we will come back and revisit this video and change around a few of the teams depending on how well they did and how bad they did in those two events. So yes, if you haven't done so yet, make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe, and also hit the hell out of that notification bell so that you can get notified the next time Benched uploads a video. My name is Jeff. Y'all take it easy. I love y'all. Peace.